How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Yeah, that's a hell of a title, ain't it, my royal family? Well, we can't lose sight. That's why we do these videos. Because, there'll be things out there that we may lose sight of. So evil ass, racist ass, Bernie Sanders. Check this out. Bernie Sanders called for all prisoners to be able to vote, set him apart from almost every other 2002 Democrat. So let's get into this article. So, Bernie Sanders is the first 2002 Democrat presidential candidate who supports enfranchising people who are currently incarcerated. Other Democratic candidates like Senator Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris have said they support enfranchising people returning from incarceration, but have only said that prisoners voting should be part of the conversation. Following the comments, Republicans have painted Sanders' ideal as radical. So let's go down here. So 2002 Democratic across the board are in support of giving people convicted felons the right to vote after leaving prison, but Bernie Sanders on Monday took the ideal a step further and separated himself from the rest of the field. The Vermont senator is the only candidate veering for the 2002 Democratic nomination who supports enfranchising people who are currently behind bars, regardless of crimes. Much like the issues of reparations for descendants of slaves, this topic have driven a wedge between the 2002 Democrats. It estimated roughly 4.5 million people in the U.S. have been affected by felony disenfranchisement laws. Laws vary from state to state on whether or not current or former inmates are allowed to vote. At present, Maine and Vermont are the only two states where currently incarcerated people are enfranchised. During a CNN town hall on Monday, Sanders was asked if he even support voting rights for rapists or people like the Boston Marathon bomber. If somebody commits a serious crime, sexual assault, murder, they're going to be punished. This is coming out of Sanders' mouth. They may be in jail 10, 20 years, 50 years, their whole life, Sanders said in response. That's what happens when you commit a serious crime. But I think the right to vote is inherited to our democracy. Yes, even for terrible people, because once you start chipping away, you're running down a slippery slope, Sanders said. I believe even if they are in jail, they are paying the price to society that should not take away their inherent American right to participate in our democracy. Republicans quickly denounced the Vermont senator's comments on voting rights for felons. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, GOP Senator Lindsey Graham said in a tweet echoing McDaniel, Bernie Sanders support allowing rapists, murderers, and terrorists like the Boston bomber and Dylann Roof, the individual who massacred 9 church goers in Charleston, to vote from prison, Graham added. Aimed the backlash against Sanders from the GOP. A number of 2002 Democratic candidates have addressed the issue, but none of them are willing to go as far as Vermont senator, and some completely oppose what he proposed. Here's where they stand. So anyway, I've heard about this. And I'm just gonna give my honest opinion. Before I play, I got one more. I have an audio to play for the royal family. When you have committed a crime, and once you are sentenced and locked up, you give up certain rights. It is what it is. And I ain't lost sight at all, my royal family, that on a very large scale, we in jail for all kind of bullshit or shit we absolutely did not do. So I'm keeping that in my frontal lobe, and I'm dancing around with that. But again, the people who are truly have committed, you got murders, rapers, people that did god awful stuff to people. They don't have no rights. They're not participating in society. They're not taxpayers or anything. So what gives them the right to vote? And I just simply can't support that. But what I will support is, because there is a large number of us that once you have went back out into society, you're a taxpayer and doing all those type of things, yeah, you should have the right to vote. Oh yeah, I agree with that, based on the fact that a large proportion of us are locked up for bullshit. And so, yeah, so one part I don't support at all, and another part I do support based on how this society do us. And our folks should have the right to vote, because the large proportion of us are locked up. But this motherfucker, he wants to support, he feels like, Bernie Sanders wants to restore racist mass murder Dylann Roof's voting rights. So hear what they have to say. This is 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Nolte, Bernie Sanders wants to restore racist mass murder Dylann Roof's voting rights. By John Nolte on April 25, 2019. Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders, IVT, wants to restore Dylann Roof's voting rights. The white supremacist who murdered 9 innocent black people at South Carolina church in 2015. Bernie Sanders is nuts. As is a Democrat Party that could very well nominate him to run against President Trump in 2020. No kidding, the Democrat base is actually applauding this idea. Actually buying into the idea that restoring Dylann Roof's voting rights is just as important as giving women and blacks the right to vote. During a town hall event this week on CNN, a far-left fake news outlet, Sanders told America, "I believe people who commit crimes, they pay the price and they get out of jail. They certainly should have the right to vote." Fair enough. As a believer in second chances, I happen to agree with that. Sanders then added this madness. But, I believe even if they are in jail, they're paying the price to society. But that should not take away their inherent American right to participate in our democracy. When pressed by a town hall questioner that included those guilty of sexual assault in the Boston Marathon bomber, in so many words, Bernie said hells yes. "I think the right to vote is inherent to our democracy," Sanders explained. "Yes, even for terrible people, because once you start chipping away, you say, that guy committed a terrible crime. We're not going to let him vote, or that person did that, you're running down a slippery slope." That was no gaffe, either. The 678-year-old frontrunner, in some polls, doubled down at a Wednesday event in Houston. "I was criticized rather strongly because I said that when we talk about the right to vote, that right should exist for people who are currently in jail," Sanders said to applause from the Democrats in attendance. "T-hat is a right we must protect because we know the history of this country. We know that women didn't have the right to vote," Sanders added. "We know that African Americans didn't have the rights to vote." "Sorry, no, you babbling Castro lover, there is no slippery slope here, there is no chipping away here. The line is a very simple and moral one to draw. When someone is in prison or on parole or on probation, the state has legally and constitutionally stripped them of many of their rights. stripped them of many of their freedoms, and the idea we would single out the right to vote to reinstate is insane. Charles Manson and Jeffrey Dahmer should have received absentee ballots? How about that nameless piece of racist garbage who sat on death row for 21 years after he dragged James Byrd, Jr. to death? Bernie thinks that guy should receive an absentee ballot from the Sanders 2020 campaign. In total, President Bernie would restore the voting rights of 183,000 convicted murderers and 164,000 convicted rapists who have not yet paid their debt to society, who still sit in prison. And it's not just Bernie. There's also that famous rocket scientist Senator Kamala Harris, DCA. When the Democrat candidate for president was asked about allowing prisoners to vote from their cells, Harris said, "I think we should have that conversation." The only one on a slippery slope here is the Democrat Party, and it is a slippery slope of their own creation. Imagine handing an absentee ballot to Lee Harvey Oswald. Follow John Nolte on Twitter at NolteNC. Follow his Facebook page here.
All right, my royal family, let me tell you what I was thinking. I was thinking about how old and dated this motherfucker is. And he trying so fucking hard to throw something out there in the arena that'll get people to latch on to him to vote for him. He need to have his tight ass at home. He don't even believe the shit. But they trying anything because shit ain't working. He don't support ADOS, and I have no problem with it. We know where he stand. But all these candidates are just throwing something out there hoping that we'll jump on it. See, it always goes back to us. So we'll throw that voting thing out there and stuff. That ain't working either, Bernie. You need to take your red-tied ass, flat, pasty ass home. You are not going to be the president at all. At all. But you showed who your true nature is, and I really appreciate that. And so I had to do what I had to do, because I didn't want the royal family to lose sight of what you really is to the motherfucking core. Yeah, I'm touching you, Bernie, and your supporters. Just bullshit. Think that you can just gloss over with some bullshit. I'm glad that those sisters booed you the other day when you keep coming up with you march with Martin Luther King. We don't give a fuck if you march with Martin Luther King. You was racist then and you racist now. So anyway, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.